You left me behind when I was about to give birth to attend your brother's wedding. I was desperate and determined to make him regret it. I used to believe I had it all figured out, a career I loved, a home I worked hard for, and a husband who at one point I thought was my greatest blessing. My name is Cynthia, I'm 30 years old, and for years I built my life on the illusion that love and loyalty were enough to sustain a marriage. I was wrong. It started like any other great love story. I was a marketing manager at a thriving firm, financially independent and confident in my ability to balance my career and personal life. Dylan came into my world like a smooth talker with a charming smile and just the right words. He wasn't ambitious, not like me, but he had this easygoing nature that I mistook for kindness. Maybe it was my own arrogance. I thought my strength could be enough for the both of us, that my success wouldn't matter because we were a team. From the moment I said I do, I became the primary provider. Our house, the one he liked to call ours, was one I had paid for with my savings, my hard work, and my sacrifices. Dylan, he contributed in words more than actions. He had a job, of course, but it was clear from the start that his paychecks went more toward his personal indulgences than our future. I covered the mortgage, the bills, the little luxuries that made our life comfortable, and I did it without complaint, because isn't that what love is? And then there is Brenda. If I had known then what I know now, I would have seen the warning signs much earlier. The first time I met Brenda, she greeted me with a saccharine smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Oh, you work in marketing?" she said, tilting her head in that condescending way that women like her do. That must be so exciting. It was subtle, that first dig, wrapped up in a neat little bow of feigned interest. I brushed it off. In the beginning, she played the role of the doting mother-in-law well enough. I'd catch her watching me, assessing, but never saying anything outright. She wasn't warm, but she wasn't openly hostile either. I mistook her restraint for respect. What a fool I was. Then came the dinner parties. The family gatherings where Brenda would sit at the head of the table, sipping her wine, making snide little comments that were just vague enough to be dismissed as jokes. "Oh, Cynthia, I could never be one of those career women. I don't know how you do it. Neglecting your home life must be exhausting." I'd feel the sting, but before I could even react, she'd laugh, her manicured fingers waving away any offense. "Oh, I'm just teasing, dear. You know I admire how independent you are." Dylan, of course, never said a word. He'd just smile awkwardly, staring at his plate as if the conversation wasn't happening. I would glance at him, searching for some sign of support, but he never met my eyes. Tea was easier for him to keep the peace, even if it meant letting me take the blows. Carl, Dylan's younger brother, was no better. The golden child, the favorite. He was the one Brenda doted on, the one who could do no wrong. While I was breaking my back to build a future for myself and my husband, Carl was busy coasting through life with Brenda funding his every whim. When he lost his job, Brenda covered his rent. When he wrecked his car, Brenda bought him a new one. But I wasn't part of their world, not really. I was tolerated at best, and the moment I dared to challenge that, the moment I pushed back, the cracks in our so-called family began to show. It started small, a whispered comment here, a passive-aggressive jab there. Brenda would lean over to Dylan at family events, whispering in his ear with a smirk before they both laughed. When I asked what was so funny, Dylan would shake his head. "Nothing, babe, just family stuff. Family stuff." I tried to ignore it. I told myself it didn't matter, that I wasn't marrying them, I was marrying Dylan, that I was strong enough to handle it. But strength has its limits, and mine was being chipped away, piece by piece. The first real crack came at Christmas dinner. I was in the kitchen, helping set the table, when I overheard Brenda speaking to one of her friends. "I just don't understand these modern marriages," she said, swirling the wine in her glass. "Back in my day, men provided for their families. Women knew their place. But these days," she scoffed, "some women don't even know how to take care of a home. Too busy trying to be men, I suppose." The laugh that followed was sharp, mean. I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to stay silent. But then she said it. "Dylan could have done so much better." I turned to face her then, my hands trembling, my heart pounding in my chest. She wasn't even looking at me. She was sipping her wine, completely at ease, completely comfortable in her cruelty. I waited for Dylan to say something, anything, to defend me, to remind his mother that I was the one who kept a roof over our heads, that I was the one who sacrificed for him. But he just sat there, quiet, pretending not to hear. That was the moment I knew I wasn't just fighting for respect. I was fighting alone. I should have left then. I should have seen it for what it was, but love makes fools of us all, doesn't it? So I stayed. I swallowed my pride, bit my tongue, and convinced myself that things would get better. But they didn't. They got worse. Much worse. The day I found out I was pregnant should have been one of the happiest moments of my life. I should have been celebrating, crying tears of joy, imagining a future where Dylan and I would be even closer, bound together by the tiny life growing inside me. But instead, it was the beginning of my slow unraveling, of everything I had built, everything I had convinced myself was real. At first, Dylan had played the part of the excited father to be well enough. He hugged me, smiled, said all the right things. We're going to be parents, babe. This is amazing. But even then, there was something in his voice. Something detached, almost scripted. Like he was saying what he thought I wanted to hear rather than what he truly felt. The cracks in our marriage, the ones I had tried so desperately to ignore, widened with every passing week. Pregnancy was not kind to me. From the start, I was sick, violently, relentlessly sick, the kind of nausea that didn't fade after the first trimester like the book said it should, the kind that left me curled up on the bathroom floor, trembling, dehydrated, unable to eat. I lost weight when I was supposed to be gaining it. My doctor was concerned, put me on medication, told me to rest. Dylan, he barely noticed. He came home late, his excuses piling up like unread messages on a phone screen. Work's been crazy, babe, I'll make it up to you. Except he never did. At first, I believed him. I wanted to believe him, but the truth had a way of creeping in, slipping through the cracks no matter how tightly I tried to hold them shut. He wasn't working late. He was at his mother's house. I found out one night when I called his office, needing him. I had been dizzy all day, my vision swimming, my body weak. I just needed to hear his voice, to feel like I wasn't completely alone in this. But when the receptionist answered, she sounded confused. Dylan? Oh, he left hours ago. The silence on the line stretched so long, I thought she had hung up. But no, she was still there, waiting for me to respond. I didn't, because I knew exactly where he was. Brenda's house. And I was right. When he stumbled in later that night, the smell of his mother's perfume still clinging to his clothes, I confronted him. Why weren't you at work? He didn't even try to lie. Mom needed me. Mom needed him, not his wife, who was barely holding herself together, not the mother of his unborn child who had spent the entire day unable to keep even a sip of water down. No, Brenda needed him. And that apparently was more important. By the time I entered my third trimester, things had only gotten worse. The nausea had finally eased, but a new nightmare had taken its place. My vision started failing. It began subtly, what's on my laptop screen blurring together, headlights from passing cars seeming too bright. I chalked it up to exhaustion at first. Pregnancy did strange things to the body after all. But then it got worse. Street signs became unreadable, faces lost their edges, the world around me faded into a smudged painting, details bleeding together until I was forced to admit something was wrong. My doctor confirmed it, a rare pregnancy complication. The good news? It might be temporary. The bad news? It might not. Either way, one thing was clear, I could no longer do my job. I had to quit. I sat Dylan down that night, my hands shaking, my breath unsteady. I had to leave my job. He barely looked up from his phone. That sucks. That was it. That was all he had to say. No, I'm sorry, not how can I help. Now we'll figure this out together. Just that sucks. I had never felt more alone. I tried to convince myself that once the baby came, things would change. Maybe Dylan just didn't know how to support me during the pregnancy, but fatherhood would wake something up in him, that he would step up when it mattered most. I was wrong. With only a few weeks left before my due date, the final betrayal came. Carl was getting married, a lavish destination wedding in Hawaii, and Dylan? He was going. I stared at him in disbelief when he told me, "You're joking." He sighed, rubbing his temples like I was the one being unreasonable. "Cynthia, it's my brother's wedding. I can't miss it. I'm about to have our baby, Dylan." My voice cracked, my stomach twisting. He shrugged. "You'll be fine. Your mom can be there with you." That was it. That was his solution. I wasn't asking him to miss some casual event. I wasn't asking him to skip a poker night with his friends. I was asking him to be there when our child entered the world. And he chose a party on a beach instead. Then, as if that wasn't enough, as if he hadn't already shattered whatever was left of my trust, he did something even worse. The day before he left, I logged into our joint bank account to pay a few bills. The balance made my stomach drop. 0. Everything we had saved. Gone. I called him, my hands trembling so hard I almost dropped the phone. "Where is our money?" A pause, then, casually like it was nothing. I bought Carl a wedding gift. I couldn't breathe. All of it? My voice was barely above a whisper. Another pause. Then, yeah, it's a big wedding, babe. I wanted to get him something nice. I don't remember what I said next. I don't remember if I screamed or cried or if I just stood there, too stunned to do anything at all. But I remember the feeling, hollow, like I had been gutted from the inside out, and then he was gone. Just like that. Boarded a plane to paradise while I was left behind, 9 months pregnant, broke and alone. The night my water broke, I was sitting in the dark, scrolling through social media with blurred vision, my swollen feet propped up on the coffee table. My phone buzzed with a new post notification. It was a picture, Dylan, Carl, and Brenda, all dressed in expensive linen, smiling under the Hawaiian sunset. The caption read, "Best family trip ever." I stared at it, the pressure in my belly sharp and unrelenting. And then the pain hit, hard. I gasped, my hands flying to my stomach. My water had broken. I called 911. Called my mom, called anyone who would listen, because the one person who should have been there, the one person who promised to love and protect me, was sipping cocktails on a beach thousands of miles away. The labor was difficult, the pain excruciating. The room was bright, too bright, but I couldn't see any of it clearly. My vision blurred even more from the tears, from the exhaustion, from the weight of everything that had been ripped away from me. When I heard my son's first cry, something inside me cracked open. I was flooded with a love so fierce, so overwhelming, that for a moment the pain, the betrayal, the heartbreak, it all faded. For the first time in months, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. I didn't need Dylan. I never had, and I never would again. I should have known that Dylan wouldn't change, that no amount of responsibility, no baby, no family, no shared life would ever be enough to make him grow up. But some small, foolish part of me had still hoped. That part of me shattered completely in the weeks after I gave birth. The first time Dylan visited me in the hospital, he didn't bring flowers, he didn't hold my hand or kiss my forehead or tell me he was proud of me. Instead, he walked in with an air of annoyance, barely looking at me, and said the words that still burned in my memory. "You had to have surgery? Seriously, Cynthia? Women have been giving birth naturally for centuries. Why couldn't you?" I remember lying there, my body weak and sore, stitches pulling with every breath, and staring at him in disbelief, as if I had chosen this. As if I hadn't spent hours in a hospital bed, terrified, bleeding, my vision blurred beyond recognition while doctors cut me open to bring our son into the world. I had nearly died, and all he could do was complain that I hadn't done it the way he thought I should have. From that moment, something inside me shifted. I didn't say anything to him that day. I was too exhausted, too drained, but I felt it, the slow, creeping realization that this man was no longer my partner. Maybe he never had been. But the betrayal wasn't over, not even close. At home, Dylan became a stranger. He barely looked at our son. If the baby cried at night, he rolled over and groaned about how I was always waking him up. If I asked for help, just for a break, a moment of rest, he snapped that he worked all day and needed sleep. "All you do is sit at home with the baby," he muttered one night, pulling the covers over his head while I rocked our screaming infant in my arms. "It's not like you have a real job anymore." A real job, like raising a newborn wasn't work, like recovering from surgery wasn't work, like surviving on no sleep while my body struggled to heal wasn't work. I should have screamed at him. I should have packed my bags then and there, but I didn't. Instead, I did what I had always done. I pushed forward. I found a way to survive. With my eyesight still weak, my options were limited. My old career in marketing was impossible. I couldn't stare at a screen for hours anymore, but I had to find a job. I couldn't rely on Dylan. I couldn't trust him. So I swallowed my pride and took a position at a small company, paying a fraction of what I used to make. When I told Dylan, he scoffed. "That's it?" he said, shaking his head. "You used to make 6 figures. Now you're working for scraps." It didn't matter that I was doing my best. It didn't matter that I was still healing, still adjusting to motherhood, still trying to keep our family afloat. Nothing I did was ever enough. And then there was her, Maria, Carl's new wife. Brenda adored her. She fawned over Maria in a way she had never once done with me. If Maria so much as breathed, Brenda acted like she had discovered the cure for cancer. Maria is so elegant, so successful. You know she makes over 6 figures. And she's gorgeous too. Carl really won the jackpot. I could stomach the comparisons at first. I could let them slide. But then, Brenda started making them in front of me. Maria is the perfect daughter-in-law. She's smart, beautiful, and she knows how to treat her husband right. Some women could learn a thing or two from her. I wanted to scream. Maria was a fraud. I knew it. I felt it. There was something about her, too polished, too rehearsed. I didn't trust her, and I sure as hell didn't trust the way she had slithered into the family and immediately wrapped Brenda around her finger. But Dylan, he loved her. See, Cynthia? That's what a power couple looks like. That was when I realized Dylan didn't just resent me, he envied Carl. Carl, the golden child. Carl, who never had to lift a damn finger because their mother did everything for him. Carl, who had somehow landed a woman who, on the surface, seemed to be the perfect trophy wife. Meanwhile, Dylan was stuck with me, a woman who had dared to get sick, dared to have a complicated pregnancy, dared to put her child's needs before her husband's fragile ego. And then, the final blow, I found out I was pregnant again. It wasn't planned, it wasn't expected, and the second I told Dylan, his reaction made my stomach twist. "You're sure?" No joy, no excitement, just cold detachment. I nodded, my heart sinking. He ran a hand through his hair. "Well, you better not quit your job this time. We can't afford it." That was it. That was all he had to say. No, I love you. No, we'll figure this out together. No, I'm happy, just money. I should have known then that he was already planning his escape. By the time my due date neared, Dylan was barely home. He spent more and more time at Brenda's, using family obligations as an excuse. And then one night, I walked into our bedroom and saw it. A suitcase, neatly packed, zipped up, sitting by the door. My stomach lurched. No. I marched downstairs, my breath shallow, my heart hammering in my chest. "Dylan, what is that?" He barely looked up from his phone. "What?" "The suitcase. Where are you going?" He sighed, like I was being dramatic. "Carl and Maria's wedding is next week. We're flying to Hawaii, remember?" "We?" I let out a hollow laugh. "I'm 9 months pregnant," he shrugged. "So? You'll be fine." I couldn't breathe. "You're really leaving? Right before I give birth?" "Cynthia, don't be so selfish. Carl is getting married. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event. You've had a baby before. You'll manage." That was when the cold realization slammed into me. He didn't care. Not about me, not about the baby, not about the family we had built. I turned on my heel, my hands shaking as I grabbed my phone. I logged into our bank account, and then my world stopped. Zero. The money was gone. All of it. I stared at the screen, my vision blurring, my pulse thundering in my ears. I looked up at him, my voice trembling. "Where is our money?" Another shrug. "I used it for the wedding gift. It's a big event, babe. I wanted to get them something nice." I felt it then. The final shattering blow. This wasn't just neglect. This wasn't just selfishness. This was betrayal. And as he picked up that suitcase, as he walked out the door, without so much as a second glance, I knew. I had been holding on to something that no longer existed. There was no marriage, no partnership, no love. There was only me. And I was done fighting for someone who had never once fought for me. I thought, pain, blinding, suffocating pain. That was the first thing I felt when I woke up. The sterile scent of antiseptic filled my nose, the steady beeping of machines echoing in my ears. My entire body ached, the weight of exhaustion pressing down on me like a crushing tide. But none of it mattered because I was alive, and so was my baby. I blinked, my vision adjusting to the soft glow of the hospital room. My mother was sitting beside me, her hands clasped tightly together, her face etched with worry. When she saw my eyes open, she let out a breath that sounded like she had been holding it for hours. "Cynthia, sweetheart," she whispered, reaching for my hand. Her touch was warm, grounding me when everything else felt like it was spinning out of control. I tried to speak, but my throat was dry, my voice barely above a whisper. "The baby?" She nodded quickly, tears pooling in her eyes. "He's okay. He's perfect." Relief flooded through me, but it was quickly followed by a sharp, bitter sting. Because the one person who should have been here, the one person who should have held my hand through this, wasn't. Dylan was in Hawaii, laughing, drinking, celebrating Carl's wedding, while I had been wheeled into emergency surgery, fighting to bring our second child into the world. I had almost died. The doctors told me that my old C-section scar had ruptured. If I hadn't made it to the hospital in time, both my baby and I wouldn't have survived. Dylan never called, not once, not to check if I was okay, not to ask if his child had been born, nothing. My mother had tried to reach him. She told me later that she had called him over and over, but the calls went to voicemail. When she finally got through, he had laughed. "She'll be fine, Mom," he had said, sounding annoyed that she had interrupted his vacation. "Cynthia's strong, she can handle it." I felt a deep, raw kind of rage that I had never known before. For years, I had swallowed his neglect. I had made excuses, rationalized his behavior, told myself that things would get better, but this was unforgivable. Lying there in that hospital bed, stitches burning, my body weak, I made a decision. I was leaving him. And this time I wasn't going to look back. The moment I was discharged, I didn't go home. I went to my parents' house instead. Dylan didn't even notice. He didn't come looking for me, didn't ask where I was, because in his mind, I was still his. Still the woman who would clean up his messes, who would forgive him, who would stay. But he was wrong. The first thing I did was hire a lawyer. The second thing I did was gather every single financial document I could find. I had spent years paying for our home, our bills, our life, and I was going to make damn sure that he didn't get to walk away with everything while leaving me and our children with nothing. I sat in my parents' kitchen, poring over bank statements, mortgage payments, receipts, anything that would prove what I already knew, that Dylan had contributed nothing, that I had built this life brick by brick while he coasted on my sacrifices. My lawyer was ruthless. "We'll go after full custody," she said, flipping through the paperwork. "Given the financial records, you have a strong case. The courts will favor you." I nodded, my jaw tight. I was fighting for myself. I was fighting for my children. Dylan didn't deserve them. A man who could abandon his pregnant wife, who could drain their savings for a wedding gift, who couldn't even be bothered to call after she almost died. He wasn't a father, he was a parasite, and I was cutting him out of my life for good. Days passed, then a week. Still Dylan didn't call, not to ask about the baby, not to see if I was okay. I should have expected it, but some small part of me, some naive, desperate part, had still hoped. Then, finally, my phone rang. I stared at the screen, his name glowing like a warning sign. Dylan. For a moment, I considered letting it go to voicemail, but no, I wanted to hear what he had to say. I wanted to hear the excuses, the lies, the pathetic justifications for his betrayal. I pressed accept. His voice came through the line, light and smug. "Where the hell are you, Cynthia? Why aren't you at home?" I let out a slow breath, my fingers tightening around the phone. "I moved out, Dylan. I'm staying with my parents." Then, a bark of laughter. "Moved out?" he scoffed. "Are you serious? Jesus, Cynthia, you're being dramatic. I was gone for a few days, and you, what, just ran back to mommy and daddy?" I gritted my teeth. "You abandoned me, Dylan." "Oh, please," he snapped. "You weren't dying. You had a C-section. Women have them all the time." I closed my eyes, forcing myself to stay calm. "I almost did die," he huffed, like I was inconveniencing him. "Look, this is stupid. I don't have time for your little tantrum. I called because I wanted to tell you the good news." I said nothing, he continued, his voice filled with pure arrogance. "I'm about to be rich, Cynthia. And you're going to regret leaving me." I blinked. "Excuse me?" "Maria offered me a job," he said smugly, "at the bank, a high-level position. Carl and I are going into business with her. Big investments, huge payouts. She's connected. Cynthia. She's going to make us all millions." I felt a cold, sharp kind of amusement. Maria. The woman who had too much polish. The woman who was too good to be true. She was playing them. I could see it, clear as day. But Dylan? Dylan was too much of an idiot to realize he was being conned, so I let him talk. I let him ramble about how I had never believed in him, how I had held him back, how he was going to have a mansion while I was stuck raising kids alone. And when he finally finished, I smiled. "That's great, Dylan," I said, my voice light. "I hope it works out for you." He hesitated. He had expected me to be jealous, to beg for a second chance, but I was already gone. And deep down, I think he knew it. The divorce was finalized quickly. Dylan didn't fight for custody. He didn't fight for the house. He didn't fight for anything. Because in his mind, he was trading up. He thought he was walking away the winner. But he wasn't. He was walking straight into his own destruction. And I was walking into my freedom, finally. It started with a news article. I was making breakfast, my youngest babbling in his high chair while my eldest played with his toy cars on the floor. My phone buzzed and I glanced at the screen, a notification from a local business journal. The headline stopped me cold. "Local banker exposed as fraud. Maria had vanished. She wasn't a banker. She wasn't an investor. She wasn't anything she had claimed to be. She had spun an intricate web of lies, convincing Dylan, Carl, and Brenda to pour their money, all of their money, into what was supposed to be a high-level investment firm. She had used their savings, their credit, their home, equity, even convinced them to take out loans, and then overnight she was gone. Their house foreclosed, their bank accounts drained, their lives ruined. I should have felt sorry for them. I didn't. The first call came that afternoon, Dylan. I watched his name flash across the screen. I let it go to voicemail, then another call, then another. Finally, my phone chimed with a voicemail notification. Against my better judgment, I pressed play. His voice came through the speaker, raw and frantic. "Cynthia, please pick up. I need to talk. I need help." I shaky breath. "I don't know what to do. Everything's gone. She took everything." I should have felt pity. I didn't. I should have felt some small urge to help him, if only for the sake of the years we had spent together. I didn't. I deleted the voicemail without a second thought. The second was from Brenda. "Cynthia, honey, please call me back." Her voice was thin, desperate. "I know we've had our differences, but we need you. The children need their father. We have nowhere to go." A long pause. Then, quieter. "You can't just leave us like this. We're family." I stared at my phone, something cold settling in my chest. Family. They hadn't considered me family when they humiliated me at dinner tables, whispering cruel words behind my back. They hadn't considered me family when Dylan drained our bank account, left me alone to give birth, laughed at me when I nearly died. They had abandoned me, and now they needed me. No. I picked up my phone, pressed block, and set it down. I didn't owe them anything. The last call, 2 days later, was a number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it, but something in me, some final piece of closure, made me answer. "Hello?" Silence. Then Dylan's voice, small and broken. "Cynthia?" I didn't respond. "Please," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Just talk to me, just for a second." I closed my eyes, exhaling slowly. "There's nothing to talk about, Dylan. I lost everything," he choked out. "She took it all. Mom's working at he let out a bitter laugh. "A diner just to afford rent. Carl sleeping on a friend's couch. And me, I have nothing." There was a long, empty pause. Then, I don't know where to go. I let the silence stretch between us, a gaping chasm of all the years, all the betrayals, all the times I had begged him to care, and now he wanted sympathy? I let out a slow, deliberate breath. "You made your choice, Dylan." His breath hitched. "But no." My voice was steady. "You made your choice when you left me, pregnant and alone. You made your choice when you drained our savings for Carl's wedding. You made your choice when you laughed in my mother's face while I was in a hospital bed, fighting for my life." He was silent. I pressed forward. "You didn't care then, Dylan, and I don't care now." He made a choked noise, anger maybe, or desperation. "Cynthia, please," and just like that, he was gone. That night, I sat on the couch, my youngest sleeping in my arms, my eldest curled up beside me. I ran my fingers through his soft curls, listening to the gentle sound of his breathing. For the first time in years, I felt free. No more waiting, no more hoping, no more wasting my life on a man who had never deserved me. I had my children, I had my peace, and as I sat there, surrounded by love, I knew I had won. What do you think about this ending?